this wicked island and sail back home to my
Hello, Somerville. My name is Ed Halloran. Welcome to the Somerville Labor Show. As you can see, we are remote. This is going to be going on for some time. Hopefully not for too long, but while it is going on, everybody is working remotely, and the show, we've done a couple of them like this already, and we're going to continue to do this and bring the information that's needed. We would like to thank everybody for tuning in, especially people who watch us on YouTube and on Public Access Channel 3. Today we have a state representative for the 34th Middle District, which includes Somerville and Medford. And before being elected, Representative Barber was a health policy analyst for a national care advocacy organization where she worked to ensure access to quality, affordable health care. Representative Barber previously served as a research analyst in the House of Representatives drafting legislation including Massachusetts Landmark 2006 healthcare law, which has provided coverage for hundreds and thousands of Massachusetts residents. Christine Barber, welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Ed. I know we've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm glad that while I'd love to be in the studio, it's great to see you over Zoom. So thanks for having me.
I'd love to be back in the studio myself, where everything is not as complicated as it is right now, I can tell you. Also, I want to let you know something. I have been watching the shows on SMC. Joe Lynch, who is my mentor, has done some very good work on the town halls. I've been watching, get a lot of good information out of that. And, it's really helpful to a lot of people to know that, they're not alone, and that public access is giving them the information that they actually really need right now. I do appreciate that. So this is a different kind of a show that we actually were talking about having you come on the show that we had planned until this COVID-19, and we are really right now in the thick of it. And one of the things I've been saying to myself is affordable health care for all, once and for all, racial, social, economic justice. As you can see the sign behind me, we've got that Somerville Stands Together sign. And some of the groups that we all know in the city of Somerville, we're always talking about that. How do we work on it? How do we get it done? And it's unfortunate that a pandemic and crises like this occur, and it sets us off into the direction of, to get something done. What's your thought on that?
Well, first I wanted to say thank you so much to Somerville Community Media, and you're right that Joe Lynch, we're all thankful for him and for all that you all at Somerville Community Media are doing to get good information out, especially in times like these where it's hard to get accurate information. So thank you for that. But yes, you're totally right. This epidemic, I think, has laid bare so many holes that are in our social safety net, and really shown that even though all of us are affected by this and we're all dealing with it, it is disproportionately harming and affecting certain communities. So communities of color, low-income communities, communities where there's higher rates of poverty, and more honestly, essential workers who are out there working and putting themselves at risk. And there's so much more we need to be doing to make sure we're stepping up for those folks and making sure that everyone gets the care and the economic support that they need right now.
Is there anything that you're aware of that you think you and your colleagues are going to be working on in the near future to bring a bill forward? I know that we already have in the state, and when Mitt Romney was governor, and I know we took a lot of flack for the coverage in the city. in the state, and and Obamacare. But what can be done to help for these people who cannot afford to bring people on even ground here to get good quality health care?
There is still a lot to do, and we have, of course, a system that is really complicated and has, as we all know, it's hard to access care. But I've been looking a lot in the last couple weeks, I mean, over my career, but really in the last couple weeks at the gaps in care, trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to legislate quickly? We really need to think about, okay, what can we be done quickly so people can get in to the doctor if they have COVID-19. And we are at a point where if someone has symptoms of COVID-19, that they can get tested and treatment, they can get coverage for that no matter what. And that coverage the treatment doesn't include cost sharing. So you wouldn't have a deductible or copay for that treatment for COVID-19. There's much more to do in our healthcare system, for other behavioral health and many other areas. But even, regardless of your immigration status, or if you're uninsured, or you just lost your job, you can go to Mass Health, or you can go to the Connector and find coverage that is often low cost or no cost.
Well, you know what? I think it's incredibly important that be done to stop the spread, to slow it down, and get us healthy again. And I do appreciate that. What about this? And this is way down the road. Hopefully not too far though, Christine. Is the answer single payer, Medicare for all? The rest of the country, they seem to struggle with this. The East Coast and the West Coast, we have a lot of similarities, as you know. But I don't understand why we can't get something else, something better. What's your thought on that? What can we come up with? Do you think that this, what's going on politically, something can happen?
Yeah, there's been a lot of movement towards Medicare for all and moving towards single payer and in the last few years. But I also think, as I've said, because this pandemic has really exposed a lot of the gaps in our safety net, and people are realizing, all the gaps in our healthcare system and how we support community health centers and some of our community hospitals, how we support the workers there and patients. I think that could help move us in that direction and help kind of push us in that direction. But the other part of the health justice movement is it's not all about coverage. Yes, that's a basic thing that we all need, is access to coverage, but it's also about, does everyone get the equal care? Does everyone live in a community that is safe and that is, has a healthy environment? There's so many pieces to that. And that's where really looking at racism and some of the larger structural challenges in our society it's important to the healthcare system too.
I have to ask this question. Have we somehow let our guard down when it comes to funding? And I don't know about this, but has it been defunded? Has healthcare really been, brought down to a level lower than where to a very low standard? It just seems that way. It seems like it's so exposed now.
Yeah. It's funny because, obviously we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world, but we also know that doesn't bring the best outcomes all the time. So for a lot of people, the United States does not have very good health outcomes considering how much our health system costs. There's a lot of profit, a lot of people making money off the system. It's not necessarily going into our health or the health of people on the ground. And there's some that have definitely been underfunded. When you look at community health centers and some of the community hospitals, especially that serve a lot of people who get mass health, a lot of people who may not speak English at home, and a lot of the more vulnerable folks, those have been underfunded over the last many years. And I think they're doing a great job ramping up now, but they're also doing the best they can, given where they are and where what's happened over the last few decades and more.
Well, I can say this: I don't feel safe going to an urgent care Not that there's anything wrong with urgent cares. I'm not putting them down. I'm saying that we're turning hospitals into urgent care now. We need good local hospitals to be closer to us. And it's very concerning to me, and it should be concerning to a lot of residents as well. And I'm going to get into this whole thing later on anyway in this interview about what my feeling about healthcare and nurses and the value that they hold. What are your thoughts on how it's been handled in your district so far in Somerville Method on the pandemic?
I think that the residents of Somerville and Medford, which is my district, have been amazing. People are really looking out for each other, checking in on neighbors, and trying to do that without leaving their homes. So calling neighbors, making sure people are okay and have what they need. I have volunteers on my team. I've had folks calling and checking in on seniors in my district. So I think our team of volunteers has made over 800 calls to seniors, and really just calling to check in, try to get through some of that isolation that a lot of us are feeling right now, and of course see if people are okay, and if we've helped with some unemployment claims and foods and basics that people need, but mostly just connecting and reaching out and saying, we're here, we care about you, and you're not alone. And I think Somerville and Medford, it's great. That's what people do already. So they're stepping up and really trying to connect with each other.
Well,
so I think
they raise above it all. That's Somerville. I mean, look at Medford's right there with us too. I mean, we always seem to raise above this, and I think it's just going to bring us closer together, no doubt about it. Now, I know you've been working closely with the governor probably and the mayor, and there have been some really, I mean, the daily briefings have been informative. They're helpful. The mayor has been sending out a lot of messages that we've been sending out to our union members to make sure that they understand everything that's going on. How do you feel about the stay-at-home advisory and the social distancing? Is it enough, or should something more be done at this particular point in time?
Was incredibly important. And so I was with a group of legislators and also city councilors who were pushing, I think before the governor did the stay at home, we were really pushing that about a week or so before he did it. I am thankful that he did issue the stay at home order. I think it could have come sooner, but glad that it did come. And it's really important that we're really considering who is essential right now and working, because we'll talk about it more, but essential workers are really putting themselves at risk and their families at risk. And so I did sign on to a letter that was organized by Mike Connolly from Cambridge, who we're pushing for trying to get allow groups, organizations to take themselves off the essential list. There are some industries that feel like they're not essential and are trying to get off that list. And one that we've had a lot of discussions about is construction. I know in Somerville and in Boston, they've halted construction, but there is some still going on. So really trying to determine what's really essential and where safe social distancing can be implemented.
Right. So one of the other things that I really want to talk about is this nursing home issue that is incredibly sad. They've exposed to get very hit hard. The Globe reported 2/3 of nursing homes have been found to be insufficient and not following the proper sanitizing standards. I have to believe that the state is looking very closely at this and envisioning something coming out of maybe a House bill or something in order to make it some stricter laws. What's your thought on that, Christine?
Yeah, the things that we're hearing from nursing homes are really tragic. I think at this point, I believe every nursing home has at least a case of COVID, and the things that we've seen from the Holyoke Soldiers Home in Western Mass have been really horrific. There are a lot of concerns about what nursing homes are doing and if they're putting the right standards in place. I know we hear from a lot of workers and nurses, people doing personal care in nursing homes who are not able to get PPE, which personal protective equipment that's needed when you're working with patients at close proximity. So that's been a huge issue. I know some of the supplies from the plane that Robert Kraft and the Patriots brought. I know, thankfully, I think almost half of those supplies went to nursing homes, but there's still not enough. So that's a huge issue for workers, but also for patients. We don't want the workers spreading the disease. And then testing is the other huge piece. We don't have enough tests. So nursing home workers, I know they're testing the patients, but we also have to make sure they're testing the employees and the workers there. We have to keep them safe, and we have to make sure they're not spreading this too.
Well,
so yes, you mentioned a bill. There is a bill that was filed in the House that I co-sponsored about putting in stricter protections and stricter standards about nursing homes, getting more reports. It's been hard to get, frankly, information about what is going on in the nursing homes. So just trying to get more information and make sure we can protect the workers.
Well, yeah, I have to say thank you. I have to say thank you because I remember the incident when it began over a month ago, and I know the mayor and everybody was very concerned about this, and this social distancing and closing down things, and really putting a lid on it so we could stop the spread. And I believe it's working. Let's hope it is working. One thing I wanted to discuss is everything's taken a hit. Every part of labor, no matter which way you look at it. Frontline workers, they died. Some have died and have died at a high rate around the country of this COVID-19. Supermarket workers, gig economy workers, they're at high risk and they're not being protected. They don't feel like they're being protected. Amazon workers have walked off the job over proper protections. What are your thoughts on these frontline workers who are out there really just risking their lives to make a living?
Yeah, it's a really hard situation, and I think we are. We're so grateful that there's people on the front lines doing this work, and it's partly why some communities are really getting hard hit. It's typically a lot of lower wage and, like you said, gig economy, people kind of piecing these together. So to start with, a lot of those workers don't have job protections, don't have union protections, and are really out there on their own. It's a huge problem that there is not enough PPE, so that's the personal protective equipment. So masks, gloves, other things that keep you safe. We don't have enough for nurses. We don't have enough for
I know.
Yeah, personal care attendants, the people who are going into people's homes to help seniors and people with disabilities, social workers, people who are, as you said, the gig economy, people who are going to the grocery store and shopping, delivering food.
Completely unacceptable that this has to happen. I am the president of my union, and one of the most important things in a contract is the protection of your workers, and we have that in our contract, and I am very thankful for that. And this isn't a union commercial by no means, but I will say more unions, they must have protections under the law, and they just have to have it. And it's unthinkable that something like this could happen. I want to ask quickly about the $2.2 trillion relief bill, the stimulus package that has been paid to assist people. I think there was so many, I don't know if it was $34 billion that's been of claims. Now there's 22 million people who have filed for claims this month for unemployment. I also want to add that that I believe it's 7% unemployed are people of color right now. It's really affected them. It's really come down pretty hard. Is there anything in the future that you and your colleagues are looking at to protect labor in your district?
Yeah, there's a few different things that we're working on. So you're right. There's a huge increase in people filing for unemployment. The state has hired, I want to say, 500 new people to take calls and to process those, because it's a huge increase. There's still a backlog. We hear all the time from people, not getting called back, and it can take a little bit of time But if you're having problems, you can call my office. Aid will love that I'm advertising that, but we can definitely help if you're having problems, and it'll go back.
We have to advertise it because and we will get it up because that's a very important number and a very important email. We'll make sure we put that up.
Yeah, and we're definitely here to help with any agency or any problem that you're having. So, the unemployment is coming to people. We did pass a bill to get rid of. There used to be a 1 week waiting period. Now it goes back to the day you applied. So trying to get that out the door. And then for gig economy folks, that was in a CARES Act from the Fed, so that will change. And people who are sole proprietors or gig economy will be able to get unemployment. Unfortunately, the state, it's taking them a while to get that up and running. So we've heard April 30th for that, which I know is a really long time for people. So we've been pushing to try to get it done faster.
Good news.
So that's one.
Good news. I think we're all living in a different world right now, and we're going to see some things that we've never seen before. And we're all going to be tested, and legislature is really going to be tested. And you know what? I know I'm with our government and our legislators to try and help us. And I'm hoping. I'm really am hoping. One of the things that obviously going to interest me is municipalities, and we're always concerned about shortfalls. And I went through a lot of that. I understand it. It's difficult for layoffs to come year after year after year. We saw 4 of those during that bad economy back in 2008. I'm hoping that we will have something coming in the near future, and that some of this money will be going towards keeping our people employed, to the end of this year and going into next year. It's probably too early to ask this question, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's critical. So I know at the federal level, the next, what they're calling it, CARES 2 or the next iteration that they're working on now, there's been a push for cities and for states to get more of that money because there's been a huge hole because of taxes that aren't coming in anymore, and we're spending a lot more money to get people benefits, to get people what they need. So there's worry of being able to keep city and state governments honestly running and doing the basic functions that they do. We just started the state, so normally we would be debating the House budget in the state level next week. And we are actually just starting really at the drawing board because the economy is so unknown. The projections of how much we're going to lose at the state level are pretty dramatic. In probably at least $4 billion in fewer tax collections. So trying to figure out what that means for cities and towns is what we're trying to do now.
We're hoping that money can be filtered into the municipalities to keep people employed and keep them working and keep city services where they need to be. And of course, that's not a commercial. That's a reality for us.
Well, yeah, and obviously the city services are the closest to all of us. I mean, that's what we rely on the ground every day. So those are critically important, and we have to, do what we can to preserve people here working for us in the cities.
Absolutely. I want to move on just really quickly because time runs so quickly here. Nurses, PPE, personal protective equipment. We just aired a show with Donna Kelly Williams, who was wonderful, and we discussed the PPE and the high risk of nurses, healthcare workers being contaminated at a very high rate, and which it is completely unacceptable. We know that. I said that earlier. What I want to mention is that back in 2018, there was a bill. It was 2018. There was a bill that I believe you helped sponsor. That was a Safe Patient Limits Question 1 that was on the ballot that would have provided an increase in much needed nurses in hospitals in Massachusetts, but unfortunately, it did not pass. Do you believe that there would be some support to resurrect a bill that would not only provide more nurses, but ensure the highest level of safety for healthcare workers as well?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because we are hearing over and over from the nurses who have been great about getting really clear reports of what's happening, on the front lines with them. and but it's nurses, it's also the other healthcare workers in the hospitals, the nurse assistants and the others who are all facing this challenge of there's not enough PPE, they're not in safe enough environments, and it's a huge challenge. And I honestly think we're hearing it across the board, that we're hearing that at a lot of facilities. I think the state honestly is doing the best it can to get that PPE. They had the drama with the craft plane being able to deliver some of that. We are supposedly getting something more from the federal stockpile, but the feds have completely left us in a really challenging place at the state level. So I know another thing in the federal bill is they're trying to get the federal government to manufacture and distribute more PPE, because it's ridiculous that our frontline workers don't have what they need to do this work every day.
I guess what I was saying was, my question also was that I personally would like to see, I interviewed 2 nurses going back in 2018. I thought they were well read. They understood where they were going with this. I personally would like to see this question put back on the ballot. More nurses coming in. We could have used them now, and we can still use them in the future. And hopefully, everybody will be thinking about that up on Beacon Hill. I have just a couple more minutes left. Testing for everyone when they return to the workplace. Okay. Do you believe that everyone must be required to be tested at the expense of our government? I know that the government now is already doing that, but do you believe that we have to come up with something in order for us to return back to some kind of normal life and reopen the state of Massachusetts? What do you think it's going to take? I mean, we want to feel safe when we go back to work.
Yeah, I think this is one area where we should be listening to the scientists, listen to the public health experts about how do we get there. But from what I've read, it sounds like for us to get back to normal, we're not going to have a vaccine, in the very near future. So how do we get back to normal down the line, not tomorrow, but, down the line? And it sounds like widespread testing of all of us, and yes, that should be covered by the government, is a way to get there. Now, there's not nearly enough tests. We know there's a lot of people who have symptoms who can't get a test. So we're not anywhere close to being where we need to be, but to really look at this in a public health way and say all of us need to be tested and figure out how to do this.
We are so far, it just seems like we're so far away, we're so far off. It's kind of crazy. I want to, say one thing towards the end. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And one of the things that someone told me is that leaders cannot lead in fear. We cannot do that. Our leaders will be judged on how they react and in these situations, in these crises, for sure. So it's actually good to know that we have the support from our legislators. It's going to help people. I think it certainly makes me feel better when we can have the opportunity to speak to you and have this discussion about your thoughts and how you feel, and how you feel about labor specifically, which is very important to me. Did you want to give any last? Is there anything that we may not have touched on in our last minute?
Well, I appreciate, again, having me on. And if there's any, I'd say to your viewers, we're trying to focus on the people who are most hard hit by this epidemic, which includes, the frontline workers that we've been talking about, but also really vulnerable communities where there isn't the strong safety net. So if anything comes up, please call me, call my office, and we're happy to address it. And maybe that's a bill, maybe there's something we can do, maybe it's something just on a local level.
A tireless worker between you and everybody else. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. This is another shirt. You know how I am about t-shirts. I get a little crazy with them. But this is our "When We Fight, We Win" t-shirt.
I love it.
We put them out there, Christine. You know how we are about that stuff. We get a little crazy with it. And this is us going up to City Hall to say hello.
Yeah, I love it.
But I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Christine Barber. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time on the Summer Labor Show. And, when we fight, we win, and unity is strength. Thank you so much.